Hello, my name's Atobibas, and one of the most recognizable characters of the Duck universe, considered by many to be the Duckburg equivalent of Goofy, a character full of contrast. It's of course Fethry Duck. In today's episode, we invite you to discuss the history of Fethry, how he managed to become one of the most famous citizens of the capital Calasota. We will trace his history from his creation in 1964 to his latest stories by Italian artists. So sit back in your comfortable chairs or not and immerse yourself in the story of Donald's crazy cousin. Fethry made his debut in 1964 in the famous Italian comics magazine Paperino. More precisely, it was on August 2nd of that year. The creators of these characters were two American cartoonists, screenwriter Dick Kinney and the cartoonist Al Hubbard. This debut comic has been published in 14 languages in 15 different countries and 51 different publications. In the story, Fethry's crazy character was immediately revealed. In the story, Donald receives a telegram from a distant cousin, in which the cousin informs him that he will visit Donald to show him a new way of life. In the following frames, we see how, for example, Fethry runs several kilometers from the airport to Donald's house to show that a healthy life brings with it more value. Fethry also turns out to be a big supporter of nuts, which he considers the best food. In the story, Fethry is seen walking around in a cap with a pom-pom. He's wearing a red or pink, and in some colorings even a yellow sweater with black stripes in the middle. In the Australian colorings, on the other hand, Donald's cousin is seen walking around in a green sweater, which would be unthinkable today and probably was even then. The new character must have caught on, since by the end of 1964 there were at least 5 comics featuring Fethry. May I remind you that Fethry was invented in the middle of 64, which means in half a year they wrote at least 4 more comics. However, the first Fethry story that was not created by the Kinney-Hubbard duo was not produced until 1966, and responsible for it were Vic Lockman as a screenwriter and Tony Strubble as a cartoonist. In contrast, the first Italian story about Donald's crazy cousin was written in 1969 and was created by Gianpaolo Barroso and Luciano Capitanio. Also, in the late 60s, there was also a slight change to Fethry's appearance. His hat was merely lengthened a bit. Now the tiny cap turned into more of a hat, resembling one you may wear to sleep or on Christmas. Fethry entered the 1970s with an established position in the comic world. Still, his performances were limited to slapstick stories based on similar themes to Fethry Evolves, Donald in some bizarre venture of his own, causing both Drakes to come out. Not well, to put it lightly. And in the meantime, Fethry began to appear in Brazilian stories as well. Nevertheless, times were changing and Disney cartoonists didn't want to embed Fethry in just a somewhat predictable scheme, so from 1975 or so, Italian creators in particular began giving him more important roles. He was still a loser, but a smaller one, and his importance in stories featuring him steadily increased. In time, he began working for Uncle Scrooge as newspaper along with Donald. In 1976, Topolino magazine published a story by Giorgio Pezzin and Giorgio Cavasano titled The Siege of Nothing Atoll. Not at all, it's spelled A-T-O-L-L. I first assumed that was a typo, but no. In which Donald and his cousin went on a mission for Scrooge to a tropical island. Speaking of spy missions for Scrooge, since 1988 until today, the Italians have been creating stories in the MIA series, in which Donald and Fethry are set as spies on various dangerous missions. Very interestingly though, in these comics, Fethry is often more intelligent than his cousin, and his decisions often save the lives of both of the Drakes. And since 1997, Fethry has collaborated with Detective Humphrey Gokart in various Italian stories, mostly though his actions often verge on stupidity. In recent years, by far the most brilliant stories about Donald's cousin are created by Italian Enrico Faccini. who skillfully combines Fethry's silliness with his hidden abilities and ridiculousness. Often these stories rank really high in indocs, and many of them have been published in addition to Italy and European countries and even the US. But in addition to the Italians, creators working for Egmont also create interesting stories about Fethry, and from 2001 until now, he, together with Donald, have been working in the TNT agency, tasked with combating paranormal phenomena. He also appears in Brazilian stories from time to time. From 1964 to 2023, during his nearly 80-year career in the comic book world, Fethry appeared in more than 4,500 comics. In 2018, Fethry is seen in his first animated appearance in the show DuckTales. In this show, Fethry wears a yellow sweater with the iconic black stripe and a red jacket. His hat also has no pom-pom. And in conclusion, Fethry is, despite appearances, a very complex character. On the one hand, he's really cagey and slightly silly, and often his decisions and lifestyle verge on truly absurd. On the other hand, however, he's often more clever, sometimes even able to come up with something somewhat brilliant, and yet, unfortunately, his ideas are most often doomed to failure. And by most Disney fans, he is considered simply, to say the least, an idiot. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, you should share it to all of your friends. And perhaps like it and subscribe to the channel. I hope you enjoyed. Yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye.